Well, Facebook has agreed to pay a record $5 billion fine from the FTC over privacy violations and will institute new oversight, including the creation of an independent privacy committee to better police its apps developers. It's worth noting the FTC is only holding CEO Mark Zuckerberg responsible in a limited fashion. And all of this ahead of this afternoon's earnings report. I want to bring in attorney Misty Maris and the president of District Media Group and Independent Women's Forum fellow Beverly Hallberg. Let me start with you, Misty, on the legal side here. There's a lot of controversy. Democrats on the FTC is saying, hey, this was just a slap on the wrist. We should have taken them to court. We took Cambridge Analytica to court. We took the founders of Cambridge Analytica to court. They were much tougher on them, and yet, according to the Democrats, leaning in here. Why?
Well, what they're saying is that instead of doing this settlement agreement, which by virtue of the term settlement agreement means that both parties are coming to an agreement on how to proceed, Democrats are saying that this is just a slap on the wrist. This, even though we have a $5 billion penalty here, that's only 9% of Facebook's earnings. And this wasn't hashed out in court. But I would say, Charles, from a legal perspective, you have to think strategy, because it's not a slam dunk necessarily in court for the FTC, number one. Number two, you're never going to get a penalty like that that's going to deter other companies from engaging in this. And also, part of the settlement agreement is a restructure of compliance procedures in the tune of Sarbanes-Oxley, but for privacy.
I want to get back to you on that, because I'm not sure that has any teeth. I lived through Sarbanes-Oxley, and I'll talk to the audience about it. But I want to get Beverly's perspective on the public perspective of all of this. Beverly, they also say that Facebook's facial recognition software is under fire from the settlement. There's going to be some new rules there about consent to create new facial recognition models. And essentially, it feels like they're condemning this company, that they don't have a lot of trust in them, that they have violated their users. How does that harm their public image and perhaps even their stock?
I'm not sure if it does harm their public image. They are trying to. One of the aspects of this agreement, the settlement, is to say that Mark Zuckerberg personally has to talk about the information he knows about the privacy policies quarterly. So he himself, and not just the business, is being put on the chopping block on this and putting his credibility on the line. For the 87 million users who did have their data sold and therefore the privacy violated, I'm not sure they're going to look at this and say that it amounts to much. Yes, it is the largest amount that's ever fined by the FTC against a big tech company. But for as much as Facebook is worth, I do agree this is more of a slap in the wrist.
All right, so let's get back to that. So folks know Sarbanes-Oxley was put in place in 2002 because of all the misconduct of large corporations. I mean, the lying that went on, and we had the big tech bubble. Right. And so essentially CEOs and officers of the companies were writing saying they would sign off and say, yeah, we know that things are okay. We vouch for these financials. And if we don't, we're going to pay a heavy penalty, even go to prison. That was 2002. I think we had 2 or 3, maybe any legal ramifications from this. It's hard to believe that you know, why would this work now with Mark Zuckerberg if they haven't even hardly implemented this with large corporations?
No, you make a great point, Charles. And one thing there is to point out, though, with the respect to privacy, we're not talking about legislation here. And that's something that's in the works, right? They're talking about legislation to create tighter rules and regulations for privacy. This is the FTC, in my view, showing that they are serious. They're going to go after companies that violate these privacy regulations. And they're changing the terrain as far as privacy is concerned with this particular agreement by creating these internal processes and procedures for compliance, including holding the CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, personally accountable on signing off on those certifications. So, look, we'll have to see how it goes in practice in an ever-changing world when it comes to this privacy era.
Beverly, this was a violation of an agreement with the FTC from 2011. So you're saying a repeat offender, it's always in the news. People are already concerned and upset, and still you don't think this stops their momentum?
I don't think so. And even when it's more than just the FTC, there was also an agreement that was reached with the SEC, because it also showed that even when Facebook was called out on these practices, that they were hiding what actually happened to the user's data, not showing the risks that were posed. What I hope comes from this all, even if I don't think this goes far enough with a fine, I do hope what this leads to is individuals taking personal responsibility on how they share their information, on how they take photos of themselves, and whether it's done through a software program that can be used for facial recognition and other manner. So I think this is really a big push for individuals to say, be careful about what you do and talk to your kids about how to keep yourself safe.
We're back to that individual responsibility thing, huh? All right, Misty, Beverly, ladies, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.